The day Rohan left work early, she got out of trouble after a young man from the village tried to approach her in the restaurant and decided to go home early to avoid further trouble. But when she looked behind her, she was shocked. Lilian was quietly walking behind her, following her footsteps from a distance, step by step, as if she was trying to approach her undetected. At that moment, Rohan felt a feeling she had never felt before, a sense of safety, as if the fear she had felt had dissipated. Lilian's small footsteps behind her made her feel happy, as if time was moving slowly, giving her as much time as possible with Lilian, even if the distance between them was still great. Days and weeks passed, but Rohan couldn't escape the feeling that followed her, wanting to get closer to her, wanting to know why she wanted Lilian in her life. After 2 months of mutual surveillance between Lilian and Rohan, Lilian suddenly disappeared, without Rohan realizing that she too was being watched by the same eyes that had been quietly following Rohan. Lilian's disappearance was a painful blow to Rohan. She couldn't bear her absence, nor the thought of never seeing her again. Everything in her life had changed, and it was then that she realized how attached she felt to her, even though she couldn't admit it to herself. The day ended, and Rohan returned home with great sadness in her heart, but she was still worried and scared about Lilian and what might have happened to her. Questions kept running through her mind. What happened to her? Where did she go? She couldn't sleep that night. Her thoughts were all about Lilian. There was no one else in her mind. That night was the longest night of her life, and she succumbed to sleep after falling asleep. On the second day, early in the morning, Rohan woke up in a hurry and decided not to be late. So she went to the restaurant in a hurry, hoping to find Lilian there. But time passed slowly, and hour after hour passed without her showing up. Rohan couldn't wait any longer, so she ran out of the restaurant and rushed towards the police station, her footsteps never stopping. After Rohan's screams, the officer looked at her with concern and ordered his colleague, Jiwan, to talk about Lilian's case. Jiwan hesitated for a moment, then said in a calm voice, "Lilian is not well. She has a bad cold and is bedridden, unable to move on her own. She wouldn't let me stay with her." Suddenly there was silence. But, for Rohan, it was shocking. Rohan screamed at the officer. How could Lilian leave her in this condition? Anger gripped her and a sharp voice erupted out of her. How could you leave her alone? You're a very bad person. I hate you now. Rohan took quick steps towards the officer, her eyes blazing with rage. Tell me now, where is her house? I will go there myself. Don't follow me. I don't want you in my way. Jiwan looked at the officer, seemingly hesitant. Officer Jiwan was working with Lilian, and they were together everywhere. But Rohan had never seen them together in the same place, making him unrecognizable. So she started yelling at him. He didn't know if he should reveal Lilian's home address or not. But in the end, Rohan had decided that she was going to go, no matter what. The officer looked at Jiwan with a sense of concern after hearing Rohan and said in a hushed voice, "It's been a whole day, and no one has shown up to ask about Lilian. No one ever seems to be interested in her. I'd rather you take her to Officer Lilian's house. You have to drive her straight there, or at least give her the address." The officer's words made Rohan happy inside the center. She felt very happy inside, as if her dream had come true. Rohan said inwardly, Lilian's house. She couldn't believe what was happening, her thoughts spinning fast, wondering if this was the beginning of something new in her life. Officer Jiwan called out to her in a firm tone, "Come on, Rohan, get in the car quickly." She paused for a moment, then said in a weak voice, "Can we stop at the restaurant for a bit? I think I should take some food for Lilian. She must be hungry by now." Jiwan looked at her in surprise. How could she ask about Lilian with such interest? They had never spoken before, so why did she care about her so much? Why did her face look so frightened? There was something behind her words that he didn't quite understand. Despite his questions, Jiwan decides to stop by the restaurant. He knew that, Lilian visited a restaurant every day and he knew that they had never spoken to each other. But in his mind, he wondered what all the fuss was about. Jiwan waited inside the car while Rohan brought food for Lilian, not just one meal, but an extra one, which she had brought to thank Officer Jiwan for delivering it to her. During those moments, Jiwan watched in amazement as he thought, "Why is there no food for me? I think I don't deserve anything. Why am I now thinking this way?" In the car, Rohan sat, eyes never leaving the road, counting the seconds and minutes to reach Lilian's house. There was something strange in the air, something that made her curious and in a hurry to find out how Lilian was doing and how she was going to handle it. Every second felt like an eternity, and every minute felt like an eternity. 10 minutes passed with difficulty as Rohan sat in the car, her eyes watching the road with great anticipation. The car finally came to a stop in front of a dilapidated old house that looked uninhabitable. It was a rental house that Lilian had rented, and it was next door to a supermarket at the time. The house wasn't habitable, but circumstances dictated that she had to live there due to her quick move to the village after leaving the city. Rohan felt her heart ache at the sight of that old house, and her mind was filled with questions. How will Lilian be? Is she okay now? With so many questions in her mind, she decided that her fear for Lilian was more important than all those questions that were invading her mind. It wasn't what the house looked like that concerned her now. She got out of the car, quickly, food in hand, and ran to the door. In her rush, she forgot to thank Jiwan, the policeman who dropped her off. Jiwan looked at her, a sad expression on his face, as if to say, "Where is my food?" He turned the car around because the road in front of him was blocked. Suddenly, Jiwan heard Rohan's words in the air. "Jiwan! Jiwan! Stop! Stop!" Jiwan stopped slowly, then looked at her in surprise. He got out of the car and walked towards her while she hurried her steps towards him. She approached him and said, with great thanks to Jiwan, "Thank you for driving me here, Jiwan. That's very kind of you." She offered him another mouthful of food, smiled awkwardly, and then sped off toward Lilian's house again. When she arrived, she stopped in front of the door, freezing for a moment. Should she knock now or wait? Her eyes were wandering, not knowing how to act. At that moment, Lilian was inside the bathroom near the front entrance. She heard Rohan's voice and footsteps, but hesitated for a moment. She whispered to herself, "Is it really Rohan's voice? Or am I just imagining it?" Lilian smiled lightly to herself, thinking to herself that there was only Rohan in her thoughts. Have I gotten so attached to this girl that I'm imagining hearing her voice? That thought rang in her mind as she stood in front of the door. Outside, Jiwan turned on his car's siren, knowing that Rohan wouldn't dare knock on the door. Jiwan smiled and sped off. When Rohan heard the police siren, she suddenly shuddered, her body frozen in place, as if an old trauma had brought her back to a past she was trying to forget. She had been in difficult situations before with police sirens, making her content to stay put, afraid of the past repeating itself. Despite her fear, there was something inside her that drove her to look for Lilian.